Okay, it's perfect. Okay, guys, we have a lot to talk about. The first race of the year just happened, and where do we even start? Where do we even start? Like, should we talk about the regulations and how everyone, including me, thought that these regulations were not going to be that great? And maybe it's still too soon to say if they are good. But one thing is for sure, they delivered in the promises that they've pretty much said. They said it was going to be closer. They said we were going to have more fights. They said it would be easier to follow. And that's exactly what happened. And there's a statistic that pretty much confirms everything that I've just said. F1 just posted a picture saying that we went from 45 overtakes last year to 120 overtakes this year, which is pretty much 3 times more than last year, which is a big jump. Now, some OGs, so the people that have been watching F1 for a lot of years, a decade, maybe 2 decades, depending on how old you are, some people will not like the fact that the overtakes are now a little bit artificial because there's not much thinking behind it, which I disagree. Because managing your battery still requires you to think about it. You cannot just press a button and done. Because if you use your battery without thinking on the consequences, because if you use in one straight, you're going to be vulnerable in the next straight. So you have to be very strategic on when you're going to use it. And we saw one person doing it very, very well. I think he was the person that stick out a lot more than the others. And that person was obviously Leclerc. Because Leclerc shouldn't have been able to keep up with Russell for that long, the way he did. But the fact that he was managing his battery so well was what allowed him to fight him for those 10, 11 laps, you know? But before we even talk about the race, what we need to talk about is how... Let's go to practice. Let's go back to practice. Ferrari looked very strong there. Mercedes was sandbagging. You know, they took the sandbags off and they finally showed their pace. And Kimi sadly crashed in FP3. Still a mistake, or I don't know, too much power out of T1. A lot of factors that go into a crash. He somehow, some way recovers. We all saw a video of Kimi and Toto. Toto was trying to comfort him a little bit because Kimi said that he lost confidence, and I found extremely positive that Toto went to him, put an arm around his shoulder, quite literally, and told him, "Don't lose confidence. Like, you can still do it. Yeah, yes, you crashed, but you can do it." And then Mercedes, with 2 hours from FP3 to qualifying, they get to fix the car, and Kimi puts the car in P2. So you have Mercedes fixing the car, and the car was probably not perfect because it was just fixed. And when you fix the car, it's not like you get to test it, you know? So Kimi went with the car on track, not knowing if something was going to fail or not, and he was still able to put it in P2. But he had he had a couple scares during the laps that he was doing throughout the qualifying sessions. He was going off the track, he was making mistakes, he was locking up, but he still delivered. He still put it in P2. Russell was flawless. Nothing to say about Russell in qualifying. He put the car exactly where he should be. He surprised us by storm. The fact that the gap was that big, I don't think anybody was expecting the gap to be 8 tenths to another non-Merc car. So because of that, everybody was expecting Mercedes to kind of run away with it in the race, which they technically did, but it wasn't as easy as they thought it would be, because Ferrari had a thing or two to say. Ferrari started qualifying very well. Q1, they were very strong. But then, even Q2, they were decent. But Q3, everything just went downhill. They said that they were having deployment issues, battery issues, which I find very odd. And I'm a Ferrari fan, as you guys can see my hat. Why do I find it odd? Ferrari had no issues in the shakedown in Spain. Ferrari had no issues in both testings not in Barcelona, in Bahrain. Their reliability has been sublime, second to none. And then once the first qualifying session arrives, they somehow have battery issues. I found that a little bit ironic because when it actually mattered, they dropped the ball a little bit. Something that a lot of people are letting slide, but it's okay. So they qualified P4 and P7. And when we saw Lewis P7, I got a little bit scared. Even though the gaps were very close, if you ignore the Mercedes, the gaps were very close. So it's not like Lewis did extremely bad and he was like 5/10 behind the McLarens and Leclerc. That was not the case. But seeing that P7, it kind of brought this PTSD back of, okay, nothing changed. We have the same Lewis Hamilton again. Like, it's going to be the same thing again. He's going to be dominated by Leclerc. He's going to have bad qualifyings. And then he's going to have to climb through the field. But no, he actually did very well in the race. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Max Verstappen crashed in qualifying. A sight that we don't get to see that often. Max crashing. And we cannot even blame him because it was not his mistake. His rear axle completely locked on him. I don't know what caused it. I don't think Red Bull has confirmed or even explained what happened. But it was definitely a malfunction with the car. And Max also said it in the radio, so nobody can point the finger at him. And despite starting from the back, pretty much last, he started P20 on the grid, he finishes P6. I think he could have maximized it a little bit more by finishing P5, but I'm not going to be too harsh because from P20 to P6, I think it's already a big W. But don't get, like, I just want to say this because Lewis, how can I say this in a very nice way? You guys know I'm a Lewis fan. I'm not a Max hater because I wanted Max to win last season. He didn't, sadly. But Lewis had a lot of those performances of starting in the back and finishing in a solid P6, P7, P8. Max did the same thing, and a lot of people are praising him for that. When Lewis was having those type of performances after very bad qualifying and then finishing in a solid position, nobody praised him for that. I just want you guys to see the two different dynamics that's going on here. One was still getting crucified, and one is getting a lot of praise and love. But then again, him not doing good in qualifying was not his fault. But then Max was a little bit stuck behind Norris. But I wouldn't say that he got beat by Norris because, like I said, he started from the back. Even though he climbed the pack extremely fast, because the cars that he was overtaking, they were slower cars than him. So it's not like it was a hard climb. It was quite, I don't want to say easy, but it was because he got there quite quick, you know. The McLarens, I feel like they surprised us a little bit in qualifying because they were right then and there with Ferrari. Both McLarens out qualified one of the Ferraris, which was Hamilton. So that also got me a little bit worried because I was not expecting McLaren to be that fast. But okay. Another surprise in qualifying was Lindblad for sure. Hajar, with one qualifying session, already outdoes what Yuki and Lawson have done together combined last season. You know, just in one qualifying session, P3. It's insane. And yeah, that's pretty much the main focus of qualifying. And then we go to the race day. Race day arrives, and before we even get to the formation lap, I tune in and I see that Piastri crashed on his installation lap going to the grid. This already happened before. You know, it already happened to Max in Hungary a couple of years ago. It already happened, I don't know, I want to say Leclerc. It already happened to a couple people. It's a silly mistake, and he's not a rookie. I know that it was said that he got a surge in power. He had like 100 kilowatt when he upshifted. So it's not entirely and solely his fault, but you still have to blame him, because the person that's upshifting, the person that's on a throttle, the person that decided to put your cold tire on the curb was Piastri, you know? So, yeah, you cannot blame anybody but him, you know? Regardless, it's not the same situation from Verstappen, where his rear tire is completely locked up and Verstappen was the passenger in that crash and he couldn't do anything. In this case, Piastri was the one at the wheel. He could have done a little bit better. His home race where he had a whole grandstand just for him. Yeah, brutal for the fans that went there to watch him. Brutal for himself. Brutal for the team. Brutal for the country that was rooting and standing behind him. It's like the curse, the Australian curse that I hear every now and then. It's real. It exists. It exists 100%. I don't want to say I believe in curses, but it's getting out of hand. But then we go to the formation lap. We get the formation lap done, and we have the pre-start that some people still don't know what it is, which is you get the blue flags once everybody is in the grid. You have like 5 seconds to start revving your engine, and then the proper lights come. And the lights caught everyone by surprise, because I don't even know if the fifth light came, because if he did, they immediately let the lights go out immediately. It was the fastest lights I've ever seen in any motorsport race. It was insanely fast. But to no surprise, because we've been talking about this since Bahrain, since we saw the practice starts, Ferrari was an absolute rocket ship off the line. Both Leclerc and Lewis had amazing starts. Leclerc goes from P4 to P1, and the way that he literally swerved through the traffic and to get P1 was beautiful. It's like he already had it in his mind what to do, because you cannot just do that and done. No, like he knew exactly what was going to happen. He was confident, and he played out well. Hamilton also had a good start. However, he kind of bottled T1 a little bit. I also don't see a lot of people talking about it. Like, yes, he had a good run to T1, but then he went very deep, and he actually went off the track. And then he lost a position to Hajar and Lindblad. But then later down the lap, he was able to overtake them again. And I know exactly why, because Hajar and Lindblad, especially Lindblad, they used a lot of battery in the beginning of that lap. That's why Lindblad went from P9, I believe he was on the grid, to P3, because he used way too much battery. Lewis didn't use as much, so he was able to recover the positions that he lost. So he went from P7 to P3, Leclerc P4 to P1. Amazing start. But the same cannot be said about Kimi Antonelli. Kimi goes from P2 to P7. He was crawling off the grid. And the same could be said about Russell, but Russell didn't really lose any position. He kept his P2. But then we came to find out that they had no battery. But how is that even possible to have no battery? Like, how is it possible? Like, they need to fix it. I mean, I'm a Ferrari fan, so for me, if they don't fix it, that's better for me. I'm a Ferrari fan, so them not fixing it means that Ferrari is going to keep on having good starts, but I'm not expecting Ferrari to keep having good starts all the time. I feel like that would be a little bit delusional, but I want to believe, I want to have faith and hope that every start is going to be good stuff for Ferrari, especially if we have bad qualifying. Then qualifying doesn't matter for Ferrari no more. It doesn't matter where you start on a grid, especially if the run to T1 is a long one, which was not the case. The run from the grid, from the finish line to T1 in Australia, it's not that big. So if you give us a run down to T1 that's actually long enough, there could be some huge damage done by Ferrari. They could generally go from P10 to P1 just like that, depending if they don't get blocked by a car or anything like that, you know? Because, for example, Lewis didn't have Piastri right in front of him on the grid slot because Piastri crashed. So that helped Lewis massively, because if Piastri was there, would Lewis still be able to get past everyone as he did? Because Leclerc had to swerve. Who was ahead of Leclerc again? I think it was Kimi. It was Russell, Kimi, Hajar, Leclerc. So yes, so it was Kimi that was ahead of Leclerc, and Kimi didn't have a great start. So Leclerc had to go to the left side, and then he had to put himself kind of in between Hajar and Russell, and then he kind of, I'm not going to say that he swerved into Hajar, but he kind of had to turn to the right side into Hajar, and Hajar actually gave him the room that he needed, because that could have gone wrong, but everything went well. Another person that also had a very good start that nobody's really talking about, Alonso. Alonso went from P17, by the way, P17, which we were not expecting from the Astons at all. The fact that they qualified there, like Alonso almost took the car to Q2, which was already a surprise. But yeah, he went from P17 to P10. An Aston. Okay. A lot of shuffles in the beginning of the race. Is that going to be the new norm? Because I don't think so. I feel like it's just because it's new and people still don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of variables and factors, because some people were having good starts, some people were not having good starts, some people had a lot of wheel spin, some people had no wheel spin, some people had battery, some people had no battery. And for example, Lawson, he barely got off the grid, and Colapinto had one of the best reactions I've ever seen in my life. The fact that Colapinto didn't crash into Lawson was insane. He can keep his seat for now just because of that, because that was beautiful. That was beautiful. And then, yeah, after that first lap, that amazing first lap, by the way, I didn't know where to look at. And I feel like the TV directors, the race directors, they will not know where to look at either, because there is so much going on that you are genuinely lost on where to look at. You really don't know where to look at. It's crazy. But after that first lap, things settled a little bit. But you know what didn't settle? Leclerc and Russell. The back and forth that they did for 10 straight laps was beautiful. It was beautiful. If that's what we're going to have for the rest of the season, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. He surprised us all. The fact that Ferrari, I mean, there's two things that have to be said. Ferrari's race pace, Ferrari's car is very good. Ferrari absolutely dominates in the corners. They don't have the same straight line speed or deployment that Mercedes have, but the corners, the entry speed, the apex speed, minimum speed, the exit speed, it's insane. Ferrari is cooking. But sadly, it was a power track. So if we go to a track that's more on the side of the downforce side and not too many straights, I feel like Ferrari could actually dominate there, but only time will tell. Now, could one of the reasons be the reason being that Ferrari was able to stay with Russell? And when I say Ferrari, I'm talking about Leclerc, of course. The fact that he had not the boost, because boost, everybody has the boost button. So you cannot really, don't mistake boost and overtake. Overtake, you only have overtake when you are within 1 second of the driver ahead in the finish line. So Leclerc having that and being able to, use that more power that he has and overtaking Russell, was that the reason why he was able to stay with Russell? I don't think so, because in the second stint, after they all pitted, and we're going to talk about the VSC, don't worry, the gaps always stay the same. But then you could also argue that Leclerc had 13 lap fresher tires, but he was not able to catch a single tenth off of Russell, which is a bit concerning, because a 13 lap offset should, in theory, give you better lap time. But in this case, he didn't. It was actually the opposite. Russell kept on dropping Leclerc with all the tires. I don't know if it's the way Ferrari operates with the hard tire. I don't know if it's not working. I don't know if it's the temperatures. I don't know if it's a degradation. But then again, degradation? The Mercedes pitted lap 11. I'm not good in math. There's 58 laps. So it's 47. So there's 58 laps. Minus 11 is 47. The Mercs did 47 laps on those hard tires. And not for a single lap was Leclerc faster than Russell. I don't know what Pirelli is doing. Last season was already a problem where they could do the whole race on one set of tire. But I feel like in this season, it might be even worse. Something else that nobody's really talking about. Because, and I'm going to explain you why I think it's going to be worse. It's simple. We have cars clipping at the end of the straights. And you guys know what clipping is. It's when they don't have more electrical power and then they only rely on a combustion engine. They will go from, for example, 310 kilometers an hour to 260. So they're going to lose 50 kph at the end of the straight. Meaning they are putting a lot less strain, weight on the tires. So they are not really degrading their tire. It's like they are saving their tires. They are lifting and coasting. They are saving the tires so the tires can go even longer. So something is going to have to be done about that because you can literally do a race on a hard tire. The pit, for example, in Monaco, there's no 2 pit stop mandatory no more. So that means that they could technically do the whole race on the hard tires. You pit in the beginning, you can go to the end on the hard tires 100%. 100,000%. But yeah, after we saw, so let's go back to Leclerc and Russell and the way they fought. Me personally, I loved it. It was amazing. The backs and forths, going defensive and whatnot. For me, it was not just artificial. Yes, the battery was helping a lot, but it didn't feel undeserved. It didn't feel like it wasn't earned. I felt like it helped them. It gave us. I know that, for example, Russell overtakes once, and Leclerc gets him straight back. But that's just Leclerc being smarter. Russell was being outraced and outsmarted. So once we see everyone being smart on how to use and where to use their batteries, I feel like the racing is not going to be as entertaining no more. I think we're going to have less overtakes. But for now, when people are still kind of, experimenting and finding out and understanding everything, I think we're still going to have overtakes all over the place. But it's going to die down a little bit, especially with the cars getting better and better because everything is new. What we're seeing right now, it's very unpredictable. Unprecedented, nobody knows. But once the season keeps on going, we're going to start being able to predict what's actually going to happen and whatnot. The first VSC comes, obviously, because since it's the first race of a new regulation, there's going to be DNFs. A lot of reliability issues. We had only 16 cars finishing out of 22. So, which is a big chunk, to be honest. Haja's car blew up. Something that I predicted. Something that I said that the Red Bull was going to blow up eventually. And I got labeled as a hater for saying that. But yeah, it happened. And then we had a VSC. I feel like everybody watching at home knew that it's a free pit stop. So everybody has to pit, right? Well, Ferrari didn't. And now, I am actually not going to say that Ferrari bottled it. Now, hear me out before you call me a Delulu. I think staying out, I'm not going to say it was the right choice, but they tried to do something different. they tried to give themselves a tire offset that in theory, in any other season, would have worked. Because a 13 lap offset is insane. But the fact that Leclerc wasn't able to catch not even a single tenth ruined it. Because if Leclerc was catching, if Leclerc caught Russell, we would not have this conversation of a bad strategy. But the fact that he didn't catch is why everyone is, you know, scrutinizing and talking and mocking Ferrari, saying that it was bad. Yo, experts, what's up, bro? So yeah, they should have at least pitted one driver. And now I'm kind of contradicting myself. What I'm trying to say is, yes, they should have pitted, but I understand why they didn't. Because they thought it would be better. Maybe they thought that the hards would not be able to do the whole race. I don't know. Maybe the hard tires and how the longevity of them and little to no degradation on them surprised them. He went wrong. Happens. I'm not going to really say that, you know, the Ferrari strategy team is bad. It's just we do not know what to expect from these cars, I believe. But then again, what are the practice sessions for? You literally do race simulations in practice. So you should know more or less what the hard tire is going to be able to do with these cars. You know, but it is what it is. The Mercedes pit. Ferrari stays out. They have 2 chances to pit. They don't pit. They eventually get, not they, because Leclerc pitted before Russell got to him, but they eventually catch them. So Russell eventually catches Lewis, which wasn't as fast as we thought it would be. Like, yes, he caught him. Like the gap was 10 seconds when the VSC was when the VSC ended, but he still took Russell, I want to say 15 laps, 16 laps to catch Lewis. So the pace, the race pace Ferrari showed on those mediums, the same set of tires they started the race with, was strong. It was very strong. But can the same be said about the hard tires? I don't think so. I feel like Ferrari has some work to do on a hard tire. I think so. And then something else that everybody is also losing their minds over is the fact that Lewis was catching Leclerc at the end of the race. There's a lot of factors that could have helped that. And I'm a Lewis fan, but I'm not buying into the hype. So, like, did Lewis do well? 100%. Is he back? Probably. But calling him faster than Leclerc? Not yet. He got out qualified and he got beat by Leclerc. Okay? It's 1-0 in qualifying, 1-0 in the race. Lewis had 4 lap fresher tires than Leclerc. So that could have helped to catch Leclerc. And Leclerc was probably just managing and driving it home without making any mistakes. There's no need to push. You're not going to catch Kimi. So he was just probably driving it home to the finish line. We see a lot of drivers doing this. I can name you another driver that did the same. Kimi Antonelli went from 6 seconds to 2 seconds from Russell. Does he mean that Antonelli was faster than Russell? Absolutely not. Russell was just driving it home. You know? But hunting is always going to be easier. Getting hunted, nobody likes to be hunted. But hunting, like having that one goal that you have to catch someone, is always going to give you that extra speed. So Lewis catching Leclerc doesn't mean much. It still feels good, looks good. And Kimi catching Russell, you don't see nobody talking about that. But everybody's talking about Lewis catching Leclerc for some odd reason. I don't know why. Another surprises in the race. Let me just drink some water because I've been talking for so long. A second. Where was I? Other surprises in the race. The Haas, the V-Carb, and the Audi. I don't even know in what order to put these cars. I felt a little bit disappointed by the Haas at the beginning of the weekend, but in the race, they absolutely delivered. If I'm not mistaken, Behrman finished P7, I want to say. Let me check again. Formula One Australian GP. So Behrman was P7, Lindblad was P8, and Bortoleto was P9. Now, before I even praise them, let's keep in mind that some cars that would most likely finish in the points DNF'd. We have Hajar from Red Bull that, DNF'd. And we have Piastri that didn't even start the race. So we have almost 100% two cars that would have finished in the points. So if we include these two cars in the points, that means that Gasly and Gabi don't finish in the points. But that's not how we are going to go about it, okay? Behrman P7, Lindblad P8, Gabi P9, and Gasly P10. Let's start with P10. Gasly, Alpine, we all thought they were going to be stronger this year from what we've seen in testing, but it doesn't seem like the case. But starting on the right foot, it's a point. They did get lapped by P1, but Colapinto got lapped twice. Not only that, Colapinto has a whole penalty named after him. Colapinto and go. That was actually funny. But this cannot happen. The gap between Colapinto and Gasly is way too big. And if Colapinto keeps these performances, I don't see him staying with the team for long, to be completely honest with you guys. And then we have Gabi. Gabi with Audi. Audi, a new team, you can call them, because it's a new engine. They made their own engine, and hats off to them. First race with the engine, first race with the team, and boom, points. P9 with Gabi. Sadly, Nico Hülkenberg didn't even get to start the race because he had some issues on the grid. So before we even started the formation lap, they took his car out of the grid and back to the pit lane. And then we had Lindblad, which for me, it was low-key the driver of the day. Low-key. He had an amazing start. He fought Max with everything he had, which I respect a lot. We see these youngsters hopping on the V-carb and being maybe a little bit scared of Max Verstappen because he's the guy. He's the top dog. Like, he's Red Bull, if that makes sense. And to be able to trust yourself and fight Verstappen in the way he did, which was very aggressive, it's very good signs. I was not very convinced with Lindblad when he was in F2, but I'm sold now. I'm on a Lindblad train right now, 100%. P8 for him and V-carb, very positive result. And Behrman, P7, which then confirms that Haas is, I'm not going to say indeed, because their qualifying was not the best. I don't even know where he qualified, to be honest. But Haas is, for now, the rest of the best, 100%. And yeah, Verstappen P6, Norris P5. Verstappen had some issues to get Norris, but then I also saw that he had deployment issues. We are seeing a lot of issues with battery. A lot of issues. But hey, it is what it is. Still P6 for him though. Norris P5. There were points in the race that I completely forgot about Norris. I was watching the race and all of a sudden, oh, Norris, where's the champion? And McLaren is nowhere. And I'm saying this in a very nice way because they're still fourth fastest. And whoever says that McLaren is faster than Red Bull, you guys are being delusional. Yes, you guys finished ahead of Max. But remember, Max started P20. And then in the final laps, when he was right behind Norris, he had battery issues. So you guys shouldn't be celebrating finishing ahead of Max. And if you guys are celebrating finishing ahead of Max, it only shows how low you guys have set your standards, in my humble opinion. Oh, I'm losing my thoughts. What have I missed? Okay, McLaren. Today in the morning, there were some reports that Andrea Stella is not happy with Mercedes. Not happy with Mercedes because they are not, I don't know. I don't know how it actually works being a customer team and a supplier. So Mercedes is the supplier. Mercedes gives Williams, McLaren, and Alpine the engine, right? You give them the engine and you probably have to give them some data. I will say the essential data, but I don't think they have to give them everything that Mercedes keeps on developing within their own team. And I think Andrea Stella is a little bit mad about that because they see what Mercedes is capable of doing. But then he's like, hold up, I have the same engine. Why are my cars not going as fast as yours? Can you guys please tell me? And that's not how it works. And this is where being a supplier and a customer comes into play. A supplier is always going to have a lot more research, a lot more time underneath the engine, a lot more data, everything. So they know that engine from top to bottom. Even if it's very new right now, at least they know it more than McLaren does. You know, especially because they just got given a new engine right now in Australia. So there's not much they can do about it. But for them to do something about it, they will need to figure that out on themselves. Mercedes is not going to tell you what to do. You know? It's like you got given the ingredients, now you cook with what you got given. How you will do it might not be the same outcome of what Mercedes cooked, but the ingredients are the same. Now they need to find that out. So I feel like McLaren, I think it's slowly coming to a time where they need to do their own engine. I think they have, you know, the brand for it, the name for it, the personnel for it. I think they have the money for it, especially because they just entered WEC, the World Endurance Championship. So I think they would be more than capable doing their own engine instead of relying on a supplier, because now they're going to be heavily on the back foot because of it. Because I don't know if you guys noticed, but every team supplier is the teams that are in the front. You have Mercedes. They supply their own engine. They make their own engine. Ferrari, they make their own engine. You could potentially say Red Bull, because Red Bull is the third fastest team right now. I believe, in my opinion. I think we can all agree on that. They are their own engine supplier. They make their engine with Ford. And you could, yes, you have Haas in P7. They finished the race in P7. But you could also say potentially Audi, because they also made their own engine. So all the teams that do their own engine are doing somewhat better than a supplier team, than a customer team, because they don't have that much data. They don't. It's a lot of unknowns. They don't know what's going to happen. They don't know how the engine is going to behave. They don't know when they're going to run out of power. They don't know anything. So it's going to take time for McLaren to find it out. And by the time they find it out, is it going to be too late? That's what we're going to need to find out. But there's some rumors that all these customer teams, predominantly Mercedes teams, they are one tune away from being that good. Maybe not that good, but having a huge boost in performance. One software update from being that good. And that is very scary. That is very, very scary. Do I think they're going to, from one week to another, be unstoppable? I don't think so. But the potential is there. Potential is there. Just like the potential on a Ferrari car is there. And I hope they bring the barbecue rear wing. Yes, that's how I call it. You know, the wing that rotates. I hope Ferrari brings that wing back very, very soon. I need it. And yeah, that's pretty much it, to be honest. There's not much to talk about. I haven't seen many interviews after the race. Max Verstappen admitted that, you know, getting to P6 and and overtaking a lot of cars, and even being dominated driver of the day was not that impressive because he was overtaking cars that were like 2 seconds slower than him, so he's not that impressed. Lindblad made some interesting statements. I don't want to call him cocky. I don't want to call him arrogant. And I don't want to say that he was confident, but he felt a little bit... I don't know what the word is. The way he said that he doesn't owe nobody anything, he could have been a little bit more humble about his start. Like, yes, he had a phenomenal start in F1 in his career, but the way he spoke about it rubbed me off the wrong way. As if, like, he's there because he deserves it, and he's there because of no one's help but himself, which is not true. We all know how everybody gets in F1. Like, I could not get in F1 because I simply don't have the money for it. So, come on. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We've talked about everything. That was a very good waffle session. We waffled for what? 40 minutes? Yeah, 45 minutes almost. That was a very good waffle session. And now I want to look at my fantasy right now and my own league. You guys are more than welcome to join my league, by the way. Wait, how can I share my code? Here's the code, by the way. I'll put the code in the chat real quick. Here's the code in case you guys want to join my fantasy. Let's see how good I've done. I think I've checked it before, and I'm tied with a lot of people in 33rd, but there's 977 teams here, so therefore I'll take it. I will definitely take it. 259 points. Maybe I should have used the 3x. I think it was clear that Russell was going to win this race. I kind of made a mistake by not using anything on him. I could have also picked Max, but then again, if I picked Max, who would I get? Because Max is very expensive. So there's no regrets here. Maybe Mercedes, because I removed the Mercedes right after Antonelli crashed in FP3. I should have kept him. And then when it comes to the predictions, F1 Predict, I think I'm somewhat in the front with predictions. Wait, no. How can I see leagues? There you go. I am P11 in my F1 Predict, which is decent. I got more right than wrong, if that makes sense. So I'm very happy with that. Very, very happy with that. But yeah, I'll be back, guys. I'll be back next Friday. We're gonna do the race preview after FP1 and FP2 in China. Wait, there's not gonna be FP2 because it's a sprint weekend. Ooh, I completely forgot about that. Just pay attention to my socials. I'll probably tell you guys when I'll go live. And I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your days. Follow me across all my platforms. My name is Infratic across every platform, like I said. And I hope to see you guys very, very soon. And Formula One is back. And Formula One is here to stay. Hope you guys enjoyed. And I'll catch you guys later.